Welcome to Real Flix Reviews. We're like a book club for people who hate reading. This month's theme is sequels that were better than the original. So in that vein, I did the movie The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And we bring you movie news at the end of the program. This week we have Jonathan Charney, James Stevens, Ryan Preston, and special guest host Rob Charney.
Hey, old guy's back.
We wanted to let you know that because of certain circumstances, our co-host Jeff Michael is not going to be able to host for a while. So in that vein, our temporary, semi-permanent host Rob Charney will be in the show for a little longer. So hope you like the old guy. You're stuck with him.
Yeah, Jeff had a short run.
Yeah.
So who has the description of this
I'm paying
movie?
for the electricity, I'll do what I want to do.
The glowing Mexican.
So, Mr. Glowing Hispanic, what's this movie about?
Oh, man. I'm just kind of thinking of all the things that are going to happen having the producer be the co-host.
Actually, I think John's technically the producer.
We all have producing credits.
Well,
we both
The
produce.
guy bankrolling the...
He's right.
Yeah,
That's
I was
right.
gonna say,
There you go.
He's the bankroll.
That's right.
Okay, description. Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, 1966, by Sergio Leone. A bounty hunting scam joins two men in an uneasy alliance against a third in a race to find a fortune in gold buried in a remote cemetery.
Now, I have a question for
I got that same thing from Wikipedia.
So I have a question for everybody. What was your first thought once you saw this movie? Because this movie has a different feel than the other two in the Man with No Name trilogy.
That this one was the last one?
Well, duh.
It wasn't. So it's actually
And I
the
was
third,
happy it
not
was
the
there.
sequel.
Yeah.
Well, okay, look, I was going to point out that we can consider anything after the original to be a sequel. So, so we don't have to argue about it.
Okay, sequential order.
Yeah, because it's the
big word.
It's the same director, I guess. If you
Well,
want
and
to do it that way.
this is really kind of a loose trilogy in the first place. It's referred to as the Dollars trilogy, but it's
the Man with No Name trilogy.
The Man with No Name is sort of like in reference to the archetype. I think he's been in more movies than just these.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So
It was never designed to be a trilogy.
No,
anyway.
it was not.
They just all came up.
And I always had an issue with The Man with No Name because technically Clint Eastwood had a name.
But he never
Blondie.
said his name.
Blondie.
Yeah,
But
they said his name quite a
But
bit.
no, he never said his name. If you actually
No,
look,
he
he
didn't.
never said his name
No,
once.
he didn't.
throughout the whole
No,
movie.
you're right.
So, if anything, you could say it was the Man with No Name because he never said it. It was all said to him.
Well, then technically the Pale Rider is a Man with No Name.
I'd be down.
I mean, he was considered the good, right? So,
I knew we were going to get into this.
the good is AKA the Man with No Name.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I love the definition of good in this movie because
right?
they're all scoundrels. So he just happens to be the better scoundrel
Exactly.
and the smarter
Yeah.
one.
less of a piece of a shit than the other two.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
he was also smarter. I love the whole bit through the whole thing that he couldn't be killed because they'd never find out where everything was.
I'm actually going to push this off and ask John what he actually thought about this one before we jump into anybody else. I want to have John start.
Jeez, I feel special.
You should.
I'm screwed. I like this one. I think the thing that really stands out from the other two is I think there's kind of progression from you get a few dollars more to a fistful of dollars, and then this one, the cinematography is a grander vision. This is much more of a grandiose idea. Sweeping angles where the soundtrack is in there, but it enhances it. It's just not thrown in there. It's more of a my mind's not fitting, but it's kind of a I'll remember the word, but it's just a much bigger movie than any of the other two.
Yeah, he
Bigger-
spared no
bigger in
expense
what
with that,
sense?
like $1.2 million, I think it was.
I think I disagree with you. I think actually the one of my favorites for a few dollars more was a little bit more grandiose than this one.
Well, I think maybe bigger in the vision of it because.
But I would say in the sense of them basically traveling through the world of the Civil War.
Yeah.
I could see what you're saying there. Yeah. But as far as like story and scenery and changes, I would say for a few dollars more was a little bit.
Well, this had
more.
This was more of like a traveling movie. They had to go a bunch of places and things happen. But this was kind of a movie.
It's an epic journey.
That's it. It's an epic. Thank you. Epic. It's one of those movies that they were stuck in situations around them. They were going from point A to point B, but they kept getting stuck in situations they didn't want to, whether it was going in jail
Yeah,
know,
the
where
world
we're
seemed a little bigger than just their problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
I still love the part when they blew up the bridge.
Yeah, that was good.
Doc, can you make me live a little bit longer? I'm expecting good news. I love that.
This whole movie was full of classic lines like
Oh,
that.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yes, that was one of the things I was going to mention is that there were so many great lines. Like, there's two kind of spurs. You know, that whole one. That
Shut
was just a great... Yeah, if you're going to shoot, don't talk.
Yeah.
You know, it's like...
Made perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
I have to admit, my favorite part is the trolling at the end when he said, "The name will be on the rock."
Oh, yeah.
That's my favorite part in the entire movie.
Actually, my favorite part is when Tuco gets through the desert and he wanders into that town. Mm-hmm. And he goes right into the gun shop. And
Yeah,
that is actually...
Taking apart the gun barrel.
Yeah, like how he
takes the guns
mismatches.
apart,
You
yeah.
can't do that so much anymore. You can do it a little bit, but not quite
you
like
couldn't
that.
do it then either.
Yeah, I'm sure you couldn't.
It was
but
even worse then. You know?
Well, I mean, like,
And
that-
here's this little gun shop owner guy. He's just going to hand this guy that he's already scared of. You can see.
Yeah.
Here's a gun. Oh, give me cartridges. Give him cartridges, and he thinks he's going to survive this.
you know, that's what I was kind of thinking. I'm like, doesn't he? He's got lots of guns. Doesn't he have a really good one in his back pocket?
Something that's loaded. Yeah, ready
Yeah.
for him to use.
One
No.
of those sawn-off shotguns swiveling under the desk or something.
Yeah.
I think. I just,
Anyway.
I love the other part about this thing is the cinematography compared to the other two was insanely different.
Yeah.
I mean, from the sweeping, shots to the close up of the eyes during the last scene,
Yeah.
to the scene when they're coming up the fight over the bridge. You see the sweeping of the battlefield and closer when you're talking to the general or whatever he was, to the scene
Captain.
Captain, to the scene where you got to the bridge. And the cinematography on this movie is hands down the best out of the three.
And the fact that, I mean, they used a lot more explosives and things than the other ones. I mean, even Clint Eastwood was sitting there shooting off a cannon.
right?
You know, that's something
And by the
you
way,
didn't see-
fastest reload ever.
Yeah, I know. I mean, somebody should have clocked him.
My whole thought was, it takes a lot longer than that. I've tried.
I assumed he moved to another cannon.
That one already loaded
Yeah,
and ready
one
to go.
all ready to go. I didn't see him ramming that thing.
I mean, the Civil War was known for leaving cannons everywhere, right?
Yeah, well,
What,
to a certain
loaded?
degree they did.
Yeah, they kind of did. But
I thought they were just lazy and didn't want to move them back. I mean, they were kind of heavy.
yeah. Anyway, anything else?
No, that switched to somebody else.
That's
You know,
it.
one of the things I wanted to point out is that you don't get to see a lot of the things that were done in this movie in the newer movies. First of all, credits. Credits were done extremely in the beginning. There was always a long opening where they credited
right.
everybody.
Yeah.
And did you know there was a guy that got credit for the credits?
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Which is-
in
which-
itself doesn't happen
The
anymore.
funniest thing is the last time I remember ever seeing front-rolling credits was in Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the
yeah,
Ooze.
yeah.
The last time I've ever saw real credits in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. And another thing I wanted to point out is, I don't know if any of you guys bothered to kind of notice this, but there was not a single word spoken in the first 10 and a half
Right.
minutes of
Right.
this movie. It was all done by looks
Right.
and by body language. Everything was told with just that, and that's something that you don't see actors do anymore.
I
This
think-
was reminiscent of the silent film era.
Yes.
In
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
tights,
Yeah.
they did the extreme close-ups, the eye movements, the look into the other guy, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what that reminded me of,
Yeah.
is the silent movies
Yeah.
era.
And one of my all-time
Homage to it.
one of my all-time favorite
Plus,
Western
you
actors is in this one, Lee Van Cleef. I mean, I got to give hands down credit to
Hell
him.
yeah.
He is one of my all-time favorite Western stars, and his
I think he was underutilized. In
I
this
do
movie.
too. I think he was
he-
really utilized in for a few dollars more.
I still think he was kind of underutilized in this, because if you look at the other movies
No,
he's
that's what
done,
I'm saying.
Yeah, that's
He's
what we're saying.
Well, I
underutilized.
meant
Yeah,
even
he's-
in the other one you were talking about, in the second
Yeah,
one.
kind of, but not so much. I mean, it was
Oh,
more.
yeah.
He got used more in this one than what's the one where he played two guys? He played twins.
Oh,
I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but he played twins where one was a bad guy, one was a good guy. Anyway, but in this one, he really plays an excellent bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
One that
Psychopath. Is what
Yeah,
he was in this one.
psychopath.
Yeah,
Straight out
absolutely.
psychopath.
By the way,
Yeah.
I love the name.
Oh,
Angel
yeah,
Eyes.
Angel
Angel
Eyes.
Eyes.
Angel Eyes has come to save us.
Yeah.
Oh.
But you get to see a lot of his kind of looks that he's got. He really was really well done with the looks.
I think this helped him with his career.
Yeah.
I mean, because he got obviously more and more popular as time went on.
Yeah, I think Clint Eastwood only had has only acted 67 roles, something like that, 66, 67 in total acted roles, according to IMDb.
Mm-hmm.
Lee Van Cleef Lee Van Cleef has acted in 177.
Yeah, but Eli Wallach is
Eli
the one
Wallach,
who's done the
160.
most.
No, he only did
Wait,
166.
I'm sorry, what was
But
that,
his
Ryan?
television credits. Did you get
Yes,
that in there?
yeah,
Oh,
166.
What did you say, Ryan?
I was saying, didn't he like die like 30 years ago?
Something like
Lee
that.
Van
Eli
Cleef?
Wallach is still alive.
Man. Eli Wallach is still
Yeah,
alive.
really?
Yeah.
Lee Van Cleef died in 89
Yeah.
at the age
Yeah.
of 64.
Yeah, isn't that
Ooh.
insane how many movies he's actually done?
Yeah, he was.
He didn't-
He was great. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't realize he died so young. That's too bad.
Anyway, but you know, one of the things that that I always enjoyed about these movies is the fact that how do I write this? I gotta look and see the shooting abilities of these guys.
Yeah.
I wrote it down like this: is beyond legendary.
Improbable.
Yeah.
Completely improbable, but you know, you gotta love the fact that how they played it up in these Western movies,
Yeah.
where it's almost like you want to be
Yeah.
that good.
Oh yeah.
I love the hip
Even though
shooting.
you're never going to be able to do it.
I love the hip shooting, the quick like this, and they shoot something 100 yards and go ding.
Oh yeah,
I
the
love that.
scene in the gun shop, you know, where he opens up the doors and there's those 3 targets, right?
Yeah.
And he shoots them, then they turn sideways, and he shoots 2 of them, and then he shoots a 3rd one, but it doesn't fall over, and
Yeah.
he just jumps on the
Yeah.
boards. And it
Well, you
makes
can
it-
see the hole.
Yeah, I mean, it's like-
Fit in.
Yeah, but that was a classic scene. I
But
liked
you
it.
know, I just love the fact that they play it up so much in these movies because it adds to the nostalgia and the fun and the mystery of the Wild West, according to
And I
how they
think-
portray it.
And I think it adds to the character more because it
Yeah.
shows them as being 3 really bad people, but with insane skill set. You know,
Yeah.
like the best of the best.
Like Tuco, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
you didn't,
Yeah.
you weren't
Birth of
supposed
the
to
Ant.
like him that much,
You know
but
what I mean?
you liked the ability that he had with a gun.
What was that, Ryan?
Sorry, Ryan, I cut
I
you
was
off.
saying it was the birth of the anti-hero.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tuca was he for me he was the star of the movie. And if you got in depth with it a little bit, you can kind of see why. Is
Yeah.
because he and the director were best friends. And actually, what was the director's name again?
Sergio Leone.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, he didn't like Clint Eastwood. They didn't
Really?
get along.
Well, he
As a
did
matter of
quite a
fact-
few movies with him.
Yeah, but this particular movie, and this was according to Wikipedia, he had to come to California to basically beg Eastwood to play in this movie. He turned him down numerous times, and so he finally worked out a deal with him. He wanted was $250,000 up front,
Wow.
plus 10% of the take in the United States. So he made a ton
What
of
the
money.
Take
This was-
is that continuously like any movies and DVDs? And
It's
You know,
stuff
I
like
don't-
that?
66 though.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a
insane.
lot of money.
It was a huge amount of money.
You know, the
I
most-
don't know if it continues or not.
The most interesting thing about this is how you see Clint Eastwood's gun has the snake design on all of it.
Yeah.
He actually had that from a former TV show he did. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, if you give us a second, looks like we have minor technical details problems, but yeah, he actually
Put
had.
Facebook back up. We'll go to Facebook.
Yeah, so he actually brought it from. He did where he was a ranch hand. Do you remember that?
Oh, Rawhide.
Rawhide.
Rawhide,
So he
yeah.
brought that on from a few. Was it a few dollars more? Was the first one?
Yeah.
He brought the. It was like the
No,
Spurs.
Fistful of Dollars was
First,
the first
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So he actually brought a couple of props from it, and it carried on through the rest of the 3.
Huh.
Which I thought was
I didn't
Yeah,
realize
I
that
haven't
one,
seen
no.
Hang 'em High in a long time. I wonder if he did in that one too. That's a good one too.
That's a good
Yeah.
one too.
I don't
Get
know.
Ryan
That's a
back.
really good question.
I'd have to go back through and start watching a bunch of those.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
been a
how
while
much
since
more
I
could
watched it.
take.
I
You know,
like
you
the
do.
westerns. You're not a western
I do
fan?
too. No, trust me.
Well, I know.
I like westerns.
I know
a lot.
your wife has a
and
ton.
Paula is just absolutely in love with
Yeah.
westerns. But this one for me, are we going to wait? Do you
He'll
wanna...
no, just keep going.
All right.
Just keep going and see if he
kinda-
comes back on.
You know, it's funny how time fades memories. You know, I thought back when I originally saw it when it was shortly out in the theaters, and you're right, I did see
Was
it
it
in the
shortly
theater,
out?
And, well, I mean, yeah,
Okay,
I think
anyway.
I saw it
I was
because
trying to
I think
think
we're
of-
talking about '66, so I probably did see it in the theaters. I would, you know.
I thought always thought that the movies back then were running longer
Yeah,
than now. I mean, because they're only out in like theaters for 2 months.
If that.
Yeah.
There's movies that are 2 weeks.
Because I remember when I was a kid, they were out in the theaters for like 3 or 4 to 6.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right.
I think Batman was in theaters for almost a year, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. No, you're absolutely right. They get rid of movies right away nowadays. Yeah. I don't know if that's because there's more movies being made.
Yes.
Looks like we got Ryan back. Ryan, do you hear us?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
All right, so what we're discussing right now is the fact that Rob seeing the movie in theaters.
Yeah, I mean, when it came out. Wow. Yeah, when it actually came out.
He's not the old guy for nothing.
No kidding. But, you were talking about favorite scenes. And you know what my favorite scene was? So that scene where they were in the wagon where Clint Eastwood and Eli Wallach were in Confederate uniforms.
That's a great scene.
And they're looking out in the distance.
Gray or blue.
Gray. And Robert E. Lee and all that. And then the colonel or general, whatever it is, slaps his coat, keeps it in his coat. The dust comes off and you see the blue coming through.
I love Clint Eastwood's face the whole time is going, no.
Oh,
no,
don't.
This is not good.
You can see it. You're just wanting to say, wait.
Yeah.
Wait.
And I gotta say, you mentioning earlier that Eli Wallach was the star of this movie, and you're so right. And I love the facial change there. It's a difficult thing to do that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It really is to get that much into a role where you're all excited, and then just you kind of like look like you shit your pants.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
no, he was incredible.
Yeah.
But in researching this a little bit, one of the things I learned about why a lot of these actors looked so tired is because the director would do 40, 50 takes.
Yeah.
Wow.
He wore out his actors, according to the Wikipedia article.
And he wonders why Clint Eastwood hated him.
That much film on that.
I don't know. Yeah.
I want to see some of those outtakes.
I don't know if Rob was planning on getting into this, but some people may not understand why we're referring to this as like spaghetti western. And for those of the audience members that don't know, a lot of Hollywood wasn't accepting him because John Wayne had just died. Mm-hmm. And they were saying Westerns died with John Wayne.
Well, not actually. John Wayne died in the early 80s, late 70s.
Yeah, but he had quit doing Westerns at this time. Yeah, you're right.
What ended up happening is the Westerns was no longer the in thing.
Yes.
They lost favor heavily.
So they went out to Italy, and all these films were done in Italy, and that's why they're referred to as spaghetti westerns and they're big hits.
Spain.
Italy, Spain, and Germany.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because the first two were heavily done in Spain.
Yeah.
But it was they couldn't do them over here very cheap. But if you go out into the middle of nowhere in Spain or Italy where they have horses on the mad cheap and a bunch of actors,
abandoned buildings,
it look like Mexican banditos. There you go.
Right.
And that's also why you could also get probably film for real cheap and go through it all.
Probably. And there were some scenes where the horses that they had were wrong for the period too. There's a scene where Van Cleef is actually riding a Tennessee Walker. Would have never happened out then, and there were a lot of Andalusians and some other horses. Having known horses a little bit, I went, that's probably not quite right for a Western, but
so
for an Italian movie, it was perfect.
You kind of got to fly with it a little bit.
But who's going to know that, right?
But the same thing happens in westerns when they have an it's supposed to be 1870 and there's an 1894 Winchester. It's. But
I'd kind of throw out to the point is that did you think you would have noticed that way back when if you were watching it?
No way. Not as young as I would have been.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. It was made for a different audience. Mm-hmm. And
what were you saying, Ryan?
Waka waka.
All right. Well, okay. I'm just gonna kind of jump into my thoughts on it. Real quick, if you don't mind. First of all, the first thing I thought when watching this movie, I hadn't seen it in a few years, but it was one of those, you get into this because your father likes westerns and he's always got them on, and he's like, oh, come check out this one. It's called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And anyway, but the first thing I thought when I was watching it again is how reminiscent it is of like a Tarantino style. Like you can really tell where Tarantino kind of got his slow burn style. I mean, especially his love for the credits for big scores. The soundtrack in this thing kicked ass. I'm going to download and have it playing in my car this week. But these movies, like we were talking about before, they really were kind of the anti-hero, but they were more like superhero movies. You take into account the type of, shooting from the
Slow down a little bit.
Going on, and just all the sort of fantastic things that they can do.
Wow, maybe you ought to have them just call in.
Are you still there, Ryan?
I mean, it was pretty much the equivalent of the superhero movie back in the day.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to pull you back to.
I don't know if you can hear me though.
Yeah, we can still hear you perfectly. Can you hear us?
Every other word.
Yeah. Okay, one of the things I was going to pull you back to is you mentioned that you can see where Quentin Tarantino got his style from. If you think of Kill Bill, in the scene where she's going against
talk about the Arun?
Yeah, thank you. Anyway, in that scene where they're kind of standing off, and the gun scene at the end of this movie where they dragged it out and they were focusing in on the faces, on the hand movements.
Right.
Yeah.
That was one thing I wanted to bring up specifically about the last gun scene. This movie is. I watched the extended version. I can't remember exactly how long.
So did I.
Almost 3 hours. 2 hours, 41 minutes.
Runtime 177 minutes.
Wow. Yeah, that's a 3-hour movie with the extended version, right?
Yeah.
There is a lot of really slow. I mean, it's a really slow paced movie.
It is.
You know
it
what
really
I mean?
is.
For how much it kind of jumps into the action. Occasionally, it's really slow paced. A lot of in between. A lot of, like we said, the looks. I mean, really told most of the story. No words for the first 10 minutes of it, but it all pays off to me with that final gun battle. You know what I mean? With the music swelling up, with one of the coolest scenes I could recall seeing in a long time. I mean, still holds up really, really. I mean, if you trim, let's say 45 minutes of the fat out of this movie, you don't have to change a damn thing. Put Quentin Tarantino's name.
So I have a. So with that being said, Ryan, what would your score be on this?
Oh man, this is a solid 3. Just there are better westerns out there to me, but this is about as best as the spaghetti western genre has to offer.
And
is it iconic in a way?
I'm with James. I love that movie.
Yeah.
I think it is. I think you're right. I think anybody around our age that we mentioned, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, too, they've seen it. So it's almost an iconic western. If you mention it to somebody, most people say you've seen Good, the Bad, the Ugly.
Right.
What was that, Ryan?
The spaghetti westerns of the day. The era only lasted from like the really, really late 50s, 58 or so, till maybe 1972 or 73 or something like that.
Do you have it down?
But
this movie
most
was
of the
made in
spaghetti
December
westerns
of
out there
66
are really kind of cheesy, campy. You know what I mean? They have a lot of really goofy parts. Like I said, this is a lot more, kind of taking it seriously. Sergio Leone and Dino De Laurentiis were pretty much the only two classic spaghetti western directors.
I do think it's not only our iconic film. I also think this is one of the very few real epic cowboy movies. That had the film like this. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, actually, according to Wikipedia, the spaghetti western age was 1960 to 1980.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a
So what about
big years.
What about you, James? What would your rating be?
I would say, this one, I mean, if, like I said, is when you're talking to people and you're mentioning Western, specifically the spaghetti Western genre, pretty much almost everybody you're going to talk to will bring up The Good, the Bad, the Ugly.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Ryan. It is not one of the really, really good standout spaghetti westerns. I mean, there's other ones out there like Hang 'em High, Pale Rider, like we mentioned, For a Few Dollars More, Fistful of Dollars. It's not one that I put up at the top of the list, but I can't generally put it at the bottom either. So it's around a 3. It's average for a spaghetti western.
So what about you, Dad? What would you give it?
Sorry.
I think I'm in there with you guys. I looked at the movie and I really loved the first 10 minutes where there's no talking at all.
Nobody ruins the movie yet.
It was the best, nobody ruined the movie. It was the best cinematography. what was really interesting is, that he used a lot of wide shots as well as all of a sudden
lot.
tight shot and then the wide shots. And I really loved the beginning of the movie. I loved the middle of the movie. And I loved the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And if you could cut out all those, like Ryan said, the slow parts, you'd have a much better movie, I really think.
Well, I mean...
and then I thought it was really interesting. I got a little bit of trivia on the bridge. Did we talk about the bridge?
Oh, yeah. I forgot
the bridge?
Yeah.
So that bridge was... they had some people build this bridge. They built it real quick and got it ready. And due to a language misunderstanding, the guy that was to set the all the
blew it up
explosive
early.
off, instead of going, okay, do it, there was another term because they were speaking Italian and Spanish,
like
German,
3 or 4 different
yeah.
languages.
yeah. And so the guy hit it off, and he just about killed half of the set makers there. Nobody got killed, fortunately, but they had to rebuild the set real quick and redo the scene. So I thought that was an interesting bit of trivia. So they went ahead and filmed a bunch of scenes they weren't ready to film while they were rebuilding the bridge. So there's make sure that your pyrotechnics
that was
guy.
probably more of the filler of the gun battle between the Yankees and the Confederates.
What is your rating?
Look, a lot of pyrotechnics back in the day was kind of winging it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A wing and a prayer.
Yeah, I'm giving it a 3.
A 3?
I'll give it a 3.
I agree 100% with all three of you. It's
Wow.
it's
Better be a better movie next month or next week.
It's a good movie. It's one of the few real epic movies that like cowboy movies that I like. It stands out, but it's not. I like the second one and the first one better, but it's still a great movie. I think the second one to me in the series is better, but this is still it's a standout movie. It's I definitely think it's a sequel that's better than the original.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now next is the movie portion of the movie news portion of the show.
We just did the movie portion.
Right?
We're doing it again. You guys ready?
Here,
Take 2.
3, 2. The next one is Ryan Reynolds, who played Deadpool in X-Men Origins, Wolverine, said they're still trying to do a Deadpool movie. And
What's a Deadpool?
Deadpool is a comic book in X-Men who's he's one of these characters that knows he's a comic book character.
So
it's very meta.
He's real, but he's a character book.
No, he's not real. He knows
he's a caricature of himself in the comic
It's
book?
really hard to explain Deadpool.
He's a
bunch of
self-aware
different powers from other mutants put into one mutant so he can beat other mutants.
No. John's trying to say something. He's a self-aware cartoon, I guess.
Yeah.
All right.
So
it's very, very goofy and very, very aware of itself.
Yeah.
So that was one of them. Is he's trying to pitch it because apparently it's been on the in development hell for a while, and so he's trying to push it, get it to go as a real fairly low budget movie, which I think with Deadpool you could pull it off.
Yeah, but it's not one I really care about. I would have to say I'm meh. Whatever.
Well, I thought it was
Look at me,
interesting.
I'm too old.
I thought it was interesting though, and the next.
It could be good, but it wouldn't be one that would be on my to-go quickly list.
See, I thought unless you're a comic book nerd, Deadpool is a very obscure character because nobody
But it's
who
still kind of a fun character that you can sell to people who don't know much about him.
Yeah.
True.
Okay. I got you. Yeah.
Especially in the world where everybody's kind of watching all these big tentpole ones. This is.
No, I really don't. You cut out.
Yeah, you kind of cut out there, Ryan.
I can't agree with you there.
Sorry. The other news is X-Men: Days of Future Past movie stills have been released.
Yes, I'm not even gonna bother with it. Yeah,
and
seriously, I don't want to ruin it.
Well, let's just say if you take a look, there's stills out. It's on our Facebook page. As you can see, and by the way, make sure you stop by, like our page, and tell us what movies you want us to review. But it shows
John
what.
to stop spoiling movies like this with stills from the movie.
So I'm being kind of meta, but this is interesting. It shows some of the characters, who's going to be in it, and with that being said, I was wondering how much more are you guys interested into it?
In the Days of Future Past?
Yeah, because it shows Wolverine's in it, Mystique's in it, both versions of Xavier's in this movie.
I am looking forward to this movie, but I am not going to spoil it on myself of just kind of seeing what they're doing. I'm just going to wait.
So you're not even going to look at stills?
No.
Really?
I'm kind of curious, but
Wow,
you're
pulling a Ryan.
No, I just gotta say, I'm actually really sick and tired of them just kind of trying to draw you in more and more and more by just teasers.
So do you miss
That's really what it is.
So what I hate is when the best part of the movie was the teasers.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the problem, I think, when you're pulling out a still or whatever.
Yeah, they're throwing.
Oh, they look wonderful, and then you go see the movie and it sucks.
So
They're blasting you with too much media,
Yeah.
and it gets your expectations way too high.
Pacific Rim?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
so,
yeah.
James, let me point out one thing that I've always felt about teasers or trailers. Sometimes, with these 30, 40, 60 million dollar marketing campaigns, it's not necessarily that the trailer is better than the movie. It's just that they tried to sell you a different movie. You know what I mean? If you're expecting this crazy big giant action movie and it turns out to be this kind of personal, really good, other movie, if that's the movie they would have sold to me, it would have been great. But
Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
that's a terrible example. What?
The movie Pearl Harbor, if you watch the trailers, it looks like it was an action movie. Turned out to be a really crappy love story.
But I'm saying, even if you sold that movie as a love story, it still sucked.
Well, yeah, but it's an example of what you're saying is they sell you a movie that looks like one thing.
What, was it the movie or was it Ben Affleck
Both.
that sucked? I kind of liked the movie, but I'm not a Ben Affleck
I didn't.
fan.
I it was just ruined for me. There was just, I tried to like it. I really did.
I think it's the special effects more than anything else that I liked. I liked
was
airplane scenes.
So
I
to-
I like that, but all the acting and all the
Oops.
filler
Yeah.
crap just sucked.
So to kind of get back on what you were saying though,
Sorry,
is
the love story part was awesome.
do you wish
Like
you,
Titanic
so do you wish it
I
was
know.
Ryan.
do you wish it was like it was back in the day, far
Yeah,
as
let's just have them call in.
you would have just one
think he has
trailer.
a number.
What you see is what you get, and that give you time to watch it and really think about it instead of doing this giant social media campaign.
I don't think you got to go back to that. I just think you need to shut up.
Well, because if you look at, for example, the example.
Seriously.
If you don't build
release
something-
one or two things, not just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
No, don't just pick one trailer and go with it. I'm saying have two or three, release a movie poster, maybe one or two trailers and leave it.
Well, for example, nowadays.
Elysium really bugged me because when I saw the trailers and the little teasers of it, I thought it was going to be
For
just
what
a fantastic movie.
Elysium.
Elysium. Oh,
The new
yeah,
Matt
yeah,
Damon.
yeah. Yeah.
I really loved the trailers.
Yeah.
The movie sucked.
Yeah. I mean,
but
it was, as far as I'm concerned, Elysium is the pinnacle of more recent movies of false advertisement.
yeah. I think
Because
so.
if you look at it, it was the design aesthetic of something like Blade Runner, but with the writing of a low budget movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very. You're right. I think they knew they had a dog and they had to do something, and so they made these great trailers, and
So,
they got people to come.
Nowadays, you have, like, for example, the movie, the new RoboCop movie, and even the new Spider-Man movie. Like, OCP has its own website, Omni Consumer Products. Oscorp has their own website.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff. Guillermo del Toro's Pacific Rim, some of the stuff had websites. So do you think all of this is too much versus
Yes.
just give a trailer, make maybe a small teaser, then when the film's ready for release, a little, with a couple of months release a big trailer, and boom.
Yeah, I think they're doing way too much. I think they're blasting the market with too much, and they're publicizing it way bigger than it really is.
Yeah.
It's just a movie, people. Seriously.
I don't
it's
know if
just
the
a movie.
percentage is
Hey,
that
wait,
high.
it's just not a movie because, ladies and gentlemen, you love Real Flix reviews.
Well, I agree with
I do.
that, but I
We
mean,
do.
it's literally just a movie. There's so many movies out there.
Mm-hmm.
If they did this with every last one,
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're just gonna get sick and tired of it, and that's kind of where I'm at with
Well, it's like
the
every
fact
month,
of.
movie's got to have its own URL now.
Yeah, you pointed out the fact that they're pretty much doing this with the comic book movies. They're putting out so much blasted media with it that they're not even following canon anymore.
Oh no. For
This
one,
is all new, made up. Like, oh yeah, this is
for one,
what's going on.
they don't want to follow canon because they don't think everybody's going to understand the minutia details, so they're going to make things up.
Well, focus on actually being able to explain things to a
exactly.
simpleton or a layman, and
For
just
me.
Yeah. Or old people. And, just
Thank you.
don't force it trying to come up with new things that are supposed to be greater and better because it's really not.
So, marketing, because if they didn't market these dog movies that we're talking about, nobody goes see them.
That's true, but I'm not going to go waste my time.
It's like a damn movie by the name of Gravity. I mean,
ladies and gentlemen, next week pick is James's pick, and so what movie are you gonna pick for us?
Well, I actually got it down to 4.
Oh, jeez.
So it was either Critters 2.
So far.
It was either Critters 2, Gremlins 2, Leprechaun 2, but I think I'm going to settle with Dark Knight.
Okay.
So, that's what we're going to be watching next week. Dark Knight.
And that's of the Nolan trilogy.
Yes.
Awesome.
I thought about going to the 80s. It was really tempting. But, I settled with actually one that is really stand out.
By the way, thank you for not picking the one with Mr. Freeze. Thank you.
No, that wasn't even in the running. We were trying to go with sequels better than the original. And Ryan, what did you say about my first 3?
I said I would have been totally cool with either one of those.
I know, wouldn't you?
Yeah, Critters. I love the Critters movies.
Leprechaun 2, come on.
I haven't seen that one.
Leprechaun 2, I'm going to watch that tonight just because you said it.
I know. I just had to throw them all out there for the fans that actually know of these movies.
So what's going to have to happen is you're going to have to pick one of those in a future.
Oh, yeah. They're in the running.
Leprechaun 3 Back to the Hood, though.
Oh, jeez.
Do I have to?
Oh, he just might do it.
So, ladies and
You're really stumped.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
we do not endorse pot smoking on this show.
So, ladies and jeez, you might. Ladies and gentlemen, this happens to be the rare 4-person agreement we all gave the good, the bad, and the ugly. A score of 3 out of 5. Make sure you check out next week.
I'll do better.
Make sure you.
I won't like anything. No, Dark Knight's going to be hard to beat. Why don't you pick something? Go back to the Leprechaun one.
So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you see the movie before you watch this episode, and we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.